Hi, welcome to the More Standard, and today we're going to be looking over the game Sushi Go. It's kind of a cute pick and pass set collecting game, and we're going to go into what all that means here in a second. Alright, so we're going to deal out 10 cards to 2 different players, just so we can kind of get a feel of what the game is, and then we're going to go over what is on the back of this, because that's really all you need. I mean, it's a very tiny rule book. Kind of gives you a little bit of strategy how each of the cards do work, but for this a little bit of a tutorial, we will not be needing all of that. So for a 2-player game, we divvy out 10 cards. So the goal of the game is to collect sets of these cards to gain points for each round, and this game is played over 3 rounds. And whoever has the most points by the end of the game will win the game. So it's not each round. So you could have a bad round. Sometimes you do. But you still can pull it out. You could still win, even with having a bad round here and there throughout. So the first object of the game is to deal 10. And so we're going to do that. So 1, 2... 5, 9, alright, and then 10. Alright, so we got our 2 players, there are 2 piles, so we'll square off quick. There we go, we got the piles settled. Alright, so player number 1, all you have to do is go into what you have, you look at your cards, we're going to kind of keep them secret from the other player. As we look. So what we're trying to do is go for the most points. And you sometimes want to go for the sure thing. So for instance, what I mean by that is some of these cards are not going to give you for sure points at the end of the game. As you'll notice on Tempura, it says 2 times equals 5. So all that means is at the end of the round, if you don't have 2 of these together, you get no points for this card. By the end of the round, you're going to have 10 cards. Some of them are going to be cards that you have selected, and some of them are going to be cards that you are going to try to keep away from your opponent. And we'll talk about that here in a second. So to start off, I don't think this is going to be very risky of an option. And so what we're going to do is have this player take that. So what he does is he looks through, okay, he puts the card face down. He puts all the cards back together because he didn't show these to his opponent. And then what he's going to do is pass this little tiny pile back to his opponent. At the same time, his opponent does exactly what we did there. So his opponent's going to go in here. He sees a squid nigiri worth a ton of points. It's worth 3, but I'll show why it's worth a ton of points. Then he's got 2 tempura here. He's got an egg nigiri, which is worth 1 point, a salmon nigiri, another squid, and another egg. So in a 2-player game, he kind of can predict what's going to be back to him. He sees that he's got 2 squid nigiri, and he wants to make some big points. So what he's going to do is look at this card. This card is called the wasabi. This card alone is worth no points, but in combination with, it says right here, with a nigiri, it's worth 3 times the points. Now the rules state that you have to play this first, and then the next nigiri that you play goes on top of this, and they kind of become 1 card. So what he's going to do is take this, he's going to gamble, but in a 2-player game he already knows, because there's some predictors, that one of these squid nigiris is going to come back to him. Unless, of course, his opponent has a chopstick, which is sometimes a really good opening move. And I'll explain what a chopstick is really quickly, because this will happen sometimes. So a chopstick, oops, let's focus. It's not going to focus. Alright, anyways, chopstick, what it does, there we go. It says you can take it, you can use it on a later turn. You take the chopstick. From there, you put it back into the deck, and you take 2 cards from the deck and play them face down for your particular turn. So he's not really risking, because he can take up one of the salmon nigiris for 2 points, getting 6, but with the squid, he's going to get 9 points. So Anyways, he's going to ship this back to his opponent. We're going to get a new set here. So player 1 is going to go in here and say, ooh, squid, tempura. Let's see. He's going to take a tempura. That way he for sure is in on it. So he's going to take that first turn. This pudding here, this says end. This is actually a card that is saved for the very end of the game. So even after the rounds are completely done, this card by itself is worth no points for your round. However, this card at the end of the game says that the player with the most of the puddings gets 6. The player with the least amount of pudding gets -6. In a 2-player game, however, it's just a +6. They don't actually do the 12-point swing, which would be pretty brutal. So it's a good card. It's just something in the very first round maybe you don't want to use. And like I said, as you're going through, you don't know what the next 20 cards are going to be from this deck. So I mean, pudding could be in a rare supply, and each and vice versa. So you kind of get a feel for what this game is going to be. You're going to be continually passing, collecting sets, obviously flipping your cards over. Your opponent will see what you're kind of going for and be able to try to stop your plans. For instance, on this next turn, he would have seen that he had the wasabi, but he would also have seen that there was 2 squid nigiri in here, and it wouldn't have mattered. So he's up to 5 points. He would have been up to 9 points at the end of this next couple rounds. And then you play till all these cards are gone, and then you score the points, and there's no winner yet. Then you would deal out 20 new cards to each player. These cards would go into a discard pile, unless of course it's pudding. And we're going to kind of go into what everything is. So you have the Maki rolls. On the Maki rolls, you'll have 3, 2, 1, as we saw, I think right here. Yeah, you have a 2. And each of these have like different values, which is pretty nice. Yeah, and then there's also a 1, but we don't have it. So what it says here is the player with the most Maki gets 6 points. The player with the second most Maki gets 3 points. So sometimes there's a competition over the Maki. If you have 2 tempura, you get 5. If you have 3 sashimi, which we didn't see any in this one, you get 10, or else you get 0. Dumplings is a slow kind of machine. For every dumpling you get, your points will multiply. Squid is pretty much face value, 3, 2, 1, unless of course you have wasabi, that will multiply it. Chopsticks is kind of a strategic move. I would normally take chopsticks early in the game, but sometimes other players will take it late in the game to try to hopefully, like especially if they're going for a sashimi, they'll take a sashimi round 1, then later on they'll see a chopsticks, hold on to it so that they could grab the next 2 sashimi without being blocked. And then there's obviously the pudding cards. So all in all, it's a very fast-paced game. Game takes about 10 minutes altogether to go through the 3 rounds. It really depends on the players at the table and what they're trying to do, thinking through their strategies. Kind of a card counting game. My wife really likes it because of the aspects that it has to it, but we get a really big kick out of it. It's a 2 to 5 player game. Yes, you can play it by yourself, but like I just showed, you can kind of predict what's going on between the 2 players. But it's a very enjoyable game, very fast paced, and one that I think will be on your table. It comes in this very cute tin. See. Really easy to take with you. You can put this easily into your backpack. I would recommend putting a rubber band around it because this lid, it's either that or bend the lid so it crimps the sides again. I don't know what happened there. But like I said, really easy to take with you on the go. And I recommend at least putting the cards in some sort of baggie or put it back in the tin with a rubber band. So, all right. Hopefully you've enjoyed this preview and kind of overview of Sushi Go. Recommend picking it up. It's, I think, only about $15 at either your local game store, Barnes & Noble, Target. I mean, if you can find it, I would just say pick it up. Really enjoyable, easy to learn. And even non-gamers, I think, non-board gamers rather, would really enjoy this type of game. So with that, this is Clinton Morris with the Morris Standard, and hopefully you enjoyed Sushi Go. Have a great day.